Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. It's Rob and Sandra from My Wife the Dietitian, and this is Nutrition Nuggets.
Hi, Rob.
Hello, Sandra.
This is our last episode of the year. I said that on Monday, but...
Was our last Nutrition Nuggets of the year.
I know, but it's going to be a bit longer than a nugget. It's not about a particular food. It's about the biggest mistakes that I see clients are making. I'm going to talk about 5 big mistakes in terms of their eating habits and their weekly activities that are actually sabotaging their health goals.
I think that's a great way to describe it. The word sabotage, I mean, I think that applies on so many levels to people who are setting goals for themselves. And, you know, as I've been listening to James Clear lately, who's kind of like
Atomic Habits.
Yeah, like creating habits and routine and all that in your life. And one of the things, and not just him, there's a few other people that I listened to as well that said the same thing, but the one thing that people do that's kind of sabotaging, there's that word again, is that they're setting goals. They're trying to achieve a specific goal instead of establishing the system or the routine.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the goal shouldn't be like to lose 10 pounds or to like get bigger arms or whatever your goal is. It should be to become healthier or, you know, like, or to go to the gym more often or.
Yeah, it's habits. Definitely. I mean, I think we talked about that last week about how our habits today will determine our health in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we are just a combination of our habits. And so last year, I think we did one on the SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, or action-oriented, realistic, and timely. And with the SMART goals, they do say like pick an actual, like very specific. So when you said like lose 10 pounds, that is a very specific and pretty realistic, I guess, goal.
Yeah, I guess the difference I was looking at podcasts and information about starting routines, I guess, which is maybe had a slightly different messaging when it came to routines and goals and whatnot. Because a routine is different than a goal, I guess.
Right. The routine is the habits to get to your goal.
Right. There's various goals along, like within your routine.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people just have too big of a goal and it's unrealistic. And then it's like self-sabotage, right? Mm-hmm. Basically they feel like, oh, this again, I'm not good at anything. And then they get in their head with their, you know, that little voice inside their head is telling them, oh, see, you're not good at this. You've failed before. And it kind of is a repeating message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're getting on a tangent already here. But
already?
I just thought I like that word sabotage because I think it applies to so many things in our life that we're trying to achieve.
Well, we are definitely creatures of habit. And I think as we come into the new year, people get, you know, they start to reflect on their life and they start to think, okay, especially after the holidays with all the different Christmas baking and the treats, you know, starting from Halloween pretty much. It's kind of like a free-for-all of sweets and treats and other things. Mm-hmm. And so I think January, a lot of people say, okay, I'm going to start some new habits and I want to get healthier. But I want to talk about the biggest mistakes that I see that clients are making. And the first one is that yo-yo diet or the diet roller coaster.
Totally. Like the need to always be on some sort of diet.
Yeah. Or, you know, they say, oh, well, it worked last time. I lost 20 pounds. but then you kind of say, did it work?
Yeah. What were you saying that you heard some joke about a dietitian and their client said something about?
Well, yeah, a client comes and says, I'm going to try this new diet. And then the health professional or dietitian says, how many pounds are you hoping to gain this time?
Because that's what happens when you go on a diet.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what they were.
That's what we know. I mean, I see it all the time with various clients in various settings. We know in the research, 80 to 95% of people who go on a diet end up gaining all the weight back. And a lot of times they gain a little bit more, like plus tax, we call it.
Yeah, right.
So and actually the whole yo-yo dieting, when you go that restriction and limiting certain foods and you feel that they're taboo or you can't have them, that isn't sustainable. And what happens is you might lose weight initially because you're like taking the junk out of your diet, you're being restrictive and you're following a certain plan. So you see results. But remember, when we lose weight, what are we losing?
Well, you're losing water, you're losing muscle.
Yeah, lean body mass.
Bone sometimes, I guess. If
lean body mass, for sure. Like, so it's not that people just assume that you're losing fat. But a lot of times when you are on a restrictive diet, you end up losing muscle. And then what happens is when you start reintroducing all those foods that maybe you were restricting, because it's unsustainable to be on a restrictive diet forever, what happens is your body actually stores fat more easily. And you end up increasing your body fat percentage. So over time, if you're doing yo-yo dieting, meaning you're on a diet, you're off a diet, you're on a diet, you're off a diet, you're on a diet, you're off a diet, you do lose weight initially, but then your body rebounds and gains more fat. And then you lose weight and gain more fat. And in this whole cycle, you end up reducing your lean body mass and lean muscle, and you increase your body fat percentage.
Exactly.
So it is definitely the diet roller coaster. It's not sustainable. And the thing is, people that have to be on a strict diet for their lifetime, thinking like celiac disease or type 1 diabetes, it is no fun.
Yeah, they don't want to be on that diet. They don't want to have all those restrictions, right?
I know, and they have to. So it's, it's being more gentle on yourself. And we're going to talk about some of the ways to reframe it and think about this instead of a diet.
All right.
Part of the problem, I think people listen to external cues. They, listen to their friends who have done a certain diet, or they hear about something. So they're listening to the external cues versus their internal cues. And we've talked about fullness and hunger scale. We've talked about like kind of intuitive eating, mindful eating. We did an episode recently with Gina Worful, and she talks about mindful eating and what's driving your eating. We talked to Wendy Shah in the past, to Craving Change, and, the emotional eating and why we have cravings. So it's good to tap into the internal and kind of think about, am I hungry? Am I full? Instead of counting your calories and macros. And we've talked about Weight Watchers recently and how they had that point system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very external, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's an external cue telling you how to eat and what to think. It's very black and white. That's why people like diets, because it's...
Well, they think it's... I mean, I was thinking about this today and sort of the psychology behind dieting, and I think it gives people a sense of control and, or rather a sense of hope in terms of being able to achieve whatever it is their goal is, I guess. And it's something that it's like a blueprint almost. It's like, oh, if I just do A, B, and C, then I'm going to have this result. And the result being the person in the picture that looks really fit or whatever, right? If I just do the same things, I'm going to look like that, or I'm going to achieve whatever the goal is. And they just think they have to follow these steps, but it's a trap. It's a total trap. And we get sucked into it over and over. And it's not just dieting, it's everything. It's the, whatever pill or potion or whatever is going to change some feature of our body, we get sucked into it. And it's just human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, I think these days in our modern living, we're kind of outsourcing everything. We outsource, we basically get experts to do everything for us because we're so busy.
Mm-hmm.
And so even the eating aspect of life, people, they don't trust themselves. So I think we do have to think about our relationship with food and our relationship with our body and like our sense of self. The second biggest mistake I see when talking with clients is they don't have a plan for meals and snacks. So what happens when you kind of don't have a plan?
Well, a few things can happen. You're going to be hungry and you're going to hit the fast food spot, or
yes.
You're just going to open your fridge and grab the first thing that looks good to you, which is like the dip and the chips and you're not going to have a full balanced meal. You're just going to have like bits and bobs of stuff.
Yeah. Convenience, easy to open.
Yeah. Just open and
packages. Eat. Yeah, exactly. It's like when the kids say, there's no food, it's just ingredients. It's all, it's that kind of thing. So that's a problem though. If there's no plan, if you don't have a plan for your meals and snacks, then you're likely...
you're going to sabotage your health again.
Yeah. You end up, it's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't remember who said that. Probably
you. I think I've heard you say that.
Atomic Habits, I believe.
Oh, maybe. That could be.
Or it might be the other habit. Charles Duhigg was another
habit guru.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, okay, the third mistake is eating after dinner because your inhibitions are low. It's time to treat yourself. Maybe the kids are in bed and you finally have some time to yourself. It's kind of like a self-care. It's like you're totally tired. And I remember at one point you said, well, you're not going to choose a salad after dinner to eat.
No, that's like if you're eating late at night, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're eating junk food. Nobody makes a big salad at like 10 o'clock at night. You're hitting the junky stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then that leads to feeling full when you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that's the next mistake I see a lot of people making is not having breakfast, waking up feeling full, not hungry, and pretty much skipping breakfast, which leads the day of irregular meals and snacks. And then that's the vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets people into trouble because they end up over the week, they're not eating whole foods. They're not eating their vegetables. They're not eating fruits. They're not getting the whole grains and all those good things we talk about, like that plate ratio.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the fifth mistake is getting hung up on counting calories and macros. That's like the term, the social media term is like counting your macros.
Right. Which is like what, protein and your carbs. Is that what that means?
Yeah. The macronutrients are the protein, carbs, and fat. And so counting calories and macros, as we know, kind of like talking about the Weight Watchers kind of diet or other diets that like there's, I don't know how many different, I heard 40,000 different diet books out there.
Wow.
Something crazy. Anyways, counting calories and macros actually leads people to restriction. So it leads into more restrictive eating. And we've talked a lot about how restrictive eating, it's the opposite of what we need to do. We actually need to increase the variety of what we're eating. We need to increase the diversity of the different plant foods. We know that having 30 different plant foods in a week is really good for our gut microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're counting calories and macros, then you're probably not going to add those seeds and nuts. You're not going to have much for breakfast because you're worried about those points. And guess what? Then you end up overeating late at night because you have cravings. You haven't fed yourself all day. So it leads to that vicious cycle. And I see it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, it is a total vicious cycle, right? And I mean, you can see how people get into it, but this is kind of like the wake up call, because I mean, it makes sense. It sounds logical. You read the diet book. It sounds good. It sounds like it's based on science, and it sounds like it'll work. And maybe to a certain degree it does work. But this, and by this, I mean Sandra's information and years of experience dealing with people who have done the diet roller coaster, is evidence of the fact that this is, like I said, this is the wake up call. It's time to get off of the diet roller coaster and just look at a healthy way of eating instead of the counting and the restrictions.
So what you can do instead is, we are creatures of habit, as we mentioned at the start, and habits form our behaviors and form kind of how our health outcomes. So if you want to, start a new path in January, tackle one behavior that you want to change just in like every 2 weeks. So just pick one thing that you think maybe you could change. So if you know that you eat late at night and it's one thing that you know that it's not great, it's not improving your future self's health, that could be something that you start to look at.
Exactly. There's a few food ones too that I know with myself, a few of the things I've sort of swapped out. I like chips and dip. I like that way of eating. It's a little bit of variety sometimes. I get a bunch of stuff out of the fridge and I'll like put it on crackers or dip chips into whatever things I find in the fridge. But I'm starting to buy and make healthier dips like hummus and tzatziki and that sort of thing, instead of the traditional like chip dips, that are just fat. So it's like, okay, at least if I'm going to have this habit of enjoying this kind of eating, I'm going to do it with foods that are going to be better for me. And maybe sometimes I won't do it with chips. I'll do it with slices of cucumber and pieces of green pepper or red pepper or whatever. And because it's the routine that I like. It's not so much that I'm eating chips. I like the cutting a piece of something, dipping it into something and eating it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the other thing is like, what's in your pantry? So, this is a lot of times learning about health and, looking at what we're shopping for, looking at labels, that takes some time. It's a journey. So be gentle on yourself, and it's not going to be like a 360 overnight in terms of you're going to change everything. That's why diets are so appealing, because it's black and white. You don't even have to think about it. There's no bread on this diet. I just won't buy bread, So, but if you know that you're eating late at night, the chips, like you mentioned, chips and dip, well, maybe that's a strategy. Is if you have control over what's in your house, you wouldn't have those things if you know that they're going to be a temptation for you.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, as I mentioned before, it's really important to be gentle on yourself, because this is a journey, and, look at, your internal cues and your relationship with food. So, why are you eating late at night? Like maybe think of, reasons for eating. We have that little magnet on the fridge. What type of hunger is this? Stomach, mouth, or heart hunger? From the Craving Change program.
Yeah.
So it's it helps you reflect on the reasons we eat. And it's good to get curious and like think about, instead of being on autopilot and just eating because you're bored or just eating because you're going past the kitchen, or eating because you haven't eaten anything all day because you skipped your meals, you know, there's these vicious cycles that we can get into. And if you can just tackle one behavior at a time, you know, and then you can expand on that once you get confident and it's working and you feel better. So, you know, with those mistakes that we talked about, with being on the, you know, the diet roller coaster and maybe having no plan for meals and snacks, eating after dinner, skipping breakfast, and getting hung up on the counting calories and macros, all of those mistakes are kind of a result of not having a plan and not being mindful about what your daily habits and your routines are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So if you know, and some clients say, they're like, I know this is a pitfall for me. I do this over and over again. I just don't know what to do. And so then we get really intentional and we look at, oh, I don't think you're eating enough in the morning. Like you're basically going out the door with coffee and that's it. And, you know, not eating till 1 or 2 p.m. And of course you're going to be super hungry by, you know, after dinner or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, dinner time. They're having 2-3 portions at dinner and then snacks after dinner. Well, we know that our body doesn't deal with nutrition and calories as well later in the day than it does earlier in the day. So our blood sugars are better controlled earlier in the day. So when we eat our food, you know, our breakfast or earlier in the day, when we, you know, I always say, eat like a king for breakfast, a prince for lunch, and a pauper for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of front load your day.
Right.
Because then you're getting your body, it's actually deals with the nutrition and the calories better earlier in the day. And then that helps set a better rhythm for you. And we know also, we've talked about the circadian rhythms and how our ancestors, they didn't have electricity, they didn't have light. So they eat during the sunlight hours and they sleep when there's no light, no daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And if we follow that, that would be better for our health because our body needs those consistent circadian rhythm, the consistency in our meals, our exercise, our sleep. And that is really key for helping our health too. So when we wake up in the morning, it's an active period. It's time to eat. And then as the day goes on, if you're eating regularly through the day and you're having the good plate ratio we talk about all the time, with half the plate is vegetables and fruits, and then a quarter is the
starch,
and then a quarter is the protein. So if we're eating those types of meals through the day, and especially starting when you first wake up, then that will help set your body on a better rhythm through the day.
Perfect. One more thing I'll add too. This was just kind of in reference to when we were talking about some foods and making changes with food habits. When we were talking to Andres Ayesta, the few times that we spoke to him this year, he was discussing the diet experiment he did on himself. And the one thing he said that he said can probably be applied across the board is that when most people go on diets, the reason they're losing weight isn't because of what they're eating. It's what they're not eating anymore. It's
right.
They're cutting out all the junk.
Yeah.
So he said, I mean, like you could just cut out the junk, like not worry about going on some fancy diet. Just control the amount of processed food that you're eating and the junk, and you'll probably feel healthier, lose weight if that's a goal or a necessity. And you don't have to worry about following some rigid, controlling diet. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good strategy. Absolutely. Just with our landscape, our food landscape, it's really hard with the food supply in terms of how much there is in terms of the processed foods.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it is New Year's. People like to start new habits and routines at New Year's. So, I mean, if you're looking for a way to like an easy, well, maybe not easy, but it seems easy. I don't know, let's just start to think about how much junk food that you're consuming on a daily basis and cut back on that.
Yeah.
That can be an easy goal.
And people do say, should I have an app? Should I keep an app or a Fitness Pal or Yuka or whatever type of monitoring system, or even like a pen to paper with journaling? And, for some people that helps. And I wouldn't say do it every day. I would say like 3 times a week, like 2 days during the week and a weekend day, just because usually it's a little bit different in terms of our schedule. But just to get an idea, like kind of instead of being obsessed with it and like having it take over too much of the energy in your life, because that's sometimes what can happen when we get on health kicks, is it's like it takes too much attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. You don't be OCD about it. Just do it to identify kind of what your eating habits are, and then leave it at that. Once it's identified, you kind of know where you stand, and you can sort of make some changes from there.
Yeah. And we know that if you put it on the plate, you'll eat it. So have a smaller plate. Use a smaller plate. Have that plate ratio, but just small. A lot of times people are just eating, like the portions are out of control, especially if you go out like for a restaurant meal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are eating at home, or even split a meal with someone at a restaurant, or have a smaller plate when you're eating at home, because we know that people usually eat everything on their plate because they were told when they were young that they're starving kids in Africa and they have to finish everything on their plate. And then it gets them into trouble when they get older, when they're eating too much and they feel like their portions are too big.
Exactly.
So we can go on and on, but those are the 5 most common mistakes.
We'll save some tips for 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that kind of helps summarize some of the
common issues that you're seeing.
Yeah, and some of the solutions.
Yeah, there you go. And I like that word, sabotage. I think that's going to stick with me because it's all encompassing. So thanks for joining us this year. We look forward to sharing more great tips and information with you in 2026. We will be changing up our episode dates. We're looking at doing episodes on Tuesday and Friday instead of Monday and Wednesday. This works a little better for our schedule. So yeah, look for our next week episode coming out on Tuesday instead of Monday. And then, did I say Friday? It'll be Thursday instead of Wednesday. And if you want more information in general about health, nutrition, what we are doing and who we are, that sort of thing, check out our website. It's mywifethedietitian.com. You can send us your emails too if you have questions. We love answering listener questions. We're more than happy to do that on the show here. So you can email us at mywifetherd@gmail.com. You can also find us on the internet. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Feel free to reach out to us there as well. And if you like the show, let us know. We love hearing your comments, your feedback, your ideas, anything that's on your mind about the show. We would love to know. So share that with us. And you can also rate and review. That's another great way to let us know what you're thinking and to let other people know what you think of the show so that they can decide whether it's a good fit for them or not. And of course, share with your friends. It's something that's super helpful for us, and I'm sure your friend would appreciate it as well. So that is it for 2025. And like I said, we really appreciate your support. We couldn't do it without everyone out there listening and interacting and just supporting the show. So we look forward to giving you more in 2026. And until then, have a great New Year's, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife, the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.